Hi, my name is Ashley Heil. This is my chemistry presentation for essential ions for human health, and I will be recorded on each page, so let's jump right into it. So to understand the essential ions for human health, we need to understand what an ion really is. And an ion is a very important chemical that plays a role in our bodies that maintain our everyday human health, help maintain homeostasis. So ions are charged atoms that can gain or lose electrons, so they have an electrical charge, as you'll see when we move forward with some of the examples in this presentation. So we're going to call these ions electrolytes, and they're very important for our body. A quote from the Cleveland Clinic states, "Electrolytes are substances that have a natural positive or negative electrical charge when dissolved in water." Now, our body is made up of predominantly water, so we have a ton of electrolytes running through our body. Back to the quote. They help your body regulate chemical reactions, maintain the balance between fluids inside and outside your cells, and much more. Okay, so the first ion we're going to discuss is potassium. Potassium's chemical formula is written as a K, and it does have a +1 charge. So the complete chemical formula for potassium is K+. Potassium is an alkali metal with a silvery white appearance and has high reactivity. So I'm going to show you some pictures on our next slide, but we'll get there in a second. Potassium can be found in bananas, in oranges, potatoes, in spinach. A lot of your vegetables you can find potassium, as well as legumes. Not a lot of people knew that. I didn't when I was doing my research. It was a good surprise. So now let's understand why potassium is a required ion for our body. And it's really, really important, potassium is. So potassium is vital for maintaining cellular membrane potential, regulating heart rhythm, and facilitating nerve impulse transmission. So potassium has a lot to do with, one, keeping our heart beating. That's really important to keeping alive, but also our brain pathways and our spine. So our ability to think, my ability to move my fingers right now and move my mouth to speak to you, our ability to feel if something's hot or cold to the touch, all of these things require our nerves to be constantly working. And if our nerves are going to be working, we're going to need ions or electrolytes that are supporting our nervous system, right? So again, we have the regulating the heart rhythm, facilitating nerve impulse transmission, and maintaining cellular membrane potential. So for our body to complete cellular processes, we need strong cells. If they're weak, they're not going to work. So potassium is really, really important just overall to maintain a sense of homeostasis in our body. So a daily requirement for an adult is between 2,500 and 3,000 milligrams for anyone who is 18 years and older. Men and women, it does not matter. Diseases resulting from deficiency is hypokalemia. So hypokalemia is characterized by muscle weakness, irregular heartbeats, and fatigue. Typically, a normal a blood range for potassium for an adult is from 3.5 to 5.2 MEQ per liter, I believe. So anything that's below 3, you would be considered to have hypokalemia, uh, because again, our normal ranges is 3.5 to 5.2. So you want to stay in that little sweet spot. So if you're below 3, hypo, low, you'll start to um, present with muscle weakness, the irregular heartbeat, and severe fatigue. It's not just, oh, I didn't get enough rest last night. No, it's very severe fatigue. And this is a global issue, a global distribution of the deficiency. It's usually misdiagnosed because it's subtle symptoms. Fatigue can fall into a class of a lot of different diseases happening in the body. So You can have an irregular heartbeat because of a lack of magnesium. You could have an irregular heartbeat because it runs in the family history. You could have muscle weakness because you ran a 30K yesterday. There's just so many different things that can go into it, so it usually gets overlooked. Recommendations to overcome the deficiency: an increased consumption of potassium-rich foods. You want to take supplements, routine blood work to monitor your potassium levels. If you know that you are struggling with your potassium levels, go to the lab consistently, see your doctor, get orders, do the blood work. It's worth it. So these are our examples of potassium, what you're going to commonly see in the chemistry lab. So this one right up above is a little bit darker than what we had discussed on the last slide, that silvery white appearance. So it is a little bit darker as compared to this one right here, where it's more of the silvery white, bright, it looks very lush kind of appearance. So this is typically what you're going to see in the chemistry lab. So now we're going to move on to iron, another ion important to our human health. Iron's chemical formula is Fe, and it does have a positive 2 charge. So the complete chemical formula for iron is Fe plus 2, as you will see it on the periodic table of elements. It does have a lustrous appearance, and it does have the ability to form an oxidative states, because it's a transition metal. So it is a little bit more flexible than what potassium is. You can find iron in red meats, is especially important in red meats, beans, lentils, and fortified cereals. This one was really interesting. I did not know that they put iron in our cereals. Kind of cool. So again, why is this ion required? It's a really important part of the protein in our blood called hemoglobin that is responsible for transporting oxygen to the rest of our body and to all of our cells. When our cells are not oxygenated, we get necrosis. That's when diseases set in. So hemoglobin is really, really important. So if it's helping create hemoglobin, we're getting oxygen to the right places, we're looking good. So the daily requirements, it's different between men and women and pregnant women. So for men, 8 milligrams a day. For women, 18 milligrams a day. Now, if you're pregnant, 27 milligrams at minimum. Diseases that result from a deficiency of iron this one is a very large one, very prevalent. It is global. Iron deficiency anemia. You're going to find fatigue, weakness, cold hands and feet, brittle nails, pale skin, and inflammation. Your tongue might be like swollen and sore, pale. So you're going to notice all these things. Go to your doctor. And recommendations to overcome the deficiency. You want to make sure you're getting an iron-rich diet. So again, red meat, beans, lentils, fortified cereals. You can take iron supplements. Those work really well. They don't taste great, but they work really well. And then also address underlying causes of poor iron absorption in the body. Okay, so these are our images. I put the chemical structure of iron here. I think it's kind of cool to look at, just to see how it's chemically built after going through the semester and learning about chemical structures. It's just kind of cool to see it. And then up above you see iron. This is one of the ways that you're going to find it in the chemistry setting. So kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to talk about iodine. Iodine, as you are going to find on the periodic table of elements, is an I with a -1 charge, so I negative. It is a halogen. It's an anion from group 17. It has a distinctive purple-black color, and it does exist as a diatomic molecule. Thought that was kind of interesting. Never knew that about iodine before. So places that we can find iodine is in seafood, dairy products, and iodized salt. Back many years ago, there was a ton of people who formed an iodine deficiency. They came to the hospitals because they had something called goiters going on around their necks, and the doctors and scientists were able to deduce, we have an iodine deficiency. How can we best get iodine to all the people who need it, create iodized salt. So, um, why is iodine so important? Well, it's essential for the synthesis of the thyroid hormones, which regulates our metabolism. Super, super important. So a daily requirement for iodine is 150 micrograms for adults, and diseases resulting from a deficiency, like I had mentioned, goiters, which is a swelling of the neck resulting from an enlargement of the thyroid gland, and cretinism, which is abnormal mental and physical development resulting from a deficiency of the thyroid hormone in fetal or early life. So you're typically going to see an intellectual disability with this person, as well as a small stature. So recommendations to overcome the deficiency: promote iodized salt. Everyone should be taking it in, as well as supplements, iodine supplements, and making sure that everyone, it's a public health initiative just to make sure that everyone understands it's really important. Okay, so this is iodine. So over here we can see that iodine exists as this purpley blackish element, and you can kind of see it like wisping away from the core element itself. Again, it's a halogen, so that makes sense. Okay, so sulfate. Sulfate's chemical formula is SO4. It has a charge of -2, so the complete chemical formula for sulfate is SO4 2 negative. It's a polyatomic ion composed of sulfur and oxygen, so you get sulfate. You can find sulfate in meats, dairy, and cruciferous vegetables. Choked on that word a few times. Why is this ion required? Sulfate is involved in various biological processes, including the synthesis of proteins and certain signaling molecules inside of our bodies. There is not an established daily intake requirement for sulfate, and because there's not a lot of information on a specific intake, there's also not a lot of information about deficiencies, if it's a global issue. So basically ensuring that you have a balanced diet with meats, vegetables, carbohydrates, getting all of your vitamins and amino acids in. Just try to keep it as balanced as you can. Best thing you can do for yourself. So this slide's kind of short. Okay, so here is sulfate. I included 2 images like I have on all of them, how you're going to find it in the lab and the chemical structure of it. Thank you for sitting through my presentation of the essential ions for human health. In this presentation, we reviewed potassium, iron, iodine, and sulfate, and why they're so important to our body, the daily intake, and if there's a deficiency, how can we help treat it? This is my list of references, and please have a great day. Thank you so much.